Praise Yahweh. And at this time, I'd like to turn the lectern over to the great Kahan, Ilya Matithya Hawkins.
Shalom, sons of Yisrayl. It's an honor to appear before you yet again at Yahweh's great house. May Yahweh's blessings be upon you. Please be seated. We're going to continue working on our theme from the second book of Israel, going on to perfection. And of course, the theme being like Yeshua. He is like Yahweh. And what is Yahweh? Perfect. Perfect. We're going to be picking up, this is chapter 45 in the second book of Israel. We're going to start at verse 24. And right off the bat here, Pastor says something. He says, Yeshua was predicted by Yahweh to do certain things, and he did. He became in the image and likeness of Yahweh by upholding all things concerning the word or the law. So Yahweh foretold of Yeshua and what he would do. And Yeshua fulfilled this. And this is very important because Yahweh foretold of us as well. And we have to fulfill what was foretold of us to do. And we'll, Yahweh willing, get into that. Now, he said that Yeshua became in the image and the likeness of Yahweh. So think about that. Becoming in the image and the likeness of Yahweh. This isn't something Yeshua snapped his finger to do. This is something that, matter of fact, let's read it from Genesis chapter 1 if you have your book of Yahweh. Just chapter 1, verse 26, just the very first sentence here. It says, Then Yahweh said, I will make man in my image, according to my likeness, and they will have rulership, they will have authority. Now this is partly past tense, if you would. It's already taken place because Yeshua has fulfilled this. He has been made in Yahweh's image. And though Yeshua was a baby, just like we were babies, Yeshua had parents, just like we have parents. Yeshua was called to Yahweh's house and trained, just like we're called to Yahweh's house and trained. And Yeshua was the man of all men because he never chose to sin. And that's what Yahweh's wanting to see in us. We have to get to the point where we will never, ever choose to sin. And this becoming in the image and likeness of Yahweh is what we receive by being trained by our mother and our father, just like Yeshua did. Now, who is our mother? The house of Yahweh. Of course, our great heavenly Father is Yahweh. And the one who stands for Yahweh in the earth, who is continually instructing us, is Pastor Yisrayl Hawkins. Now, Yeshua upheld all things concerning the law. Now, that means that you and I can uphold all 613 laws of Yahweh. And we uphold Yahweh's law not just by reading and studying, but making sure they are performed. There are certain laws that pertain to women, but we can make sure that those laws, for instance, though we won't be performing them physically ourselves, we can make sure that they're upheld in our households. It's very important. It's something that we cannot turn away from. By upholding the word, Pastor says, or upholding the laws of Yahweh, he became in the image of Yahweh. And if you remember, this is something that Satan did not do. This is something she turned away from. And it was her job as a wife of Yahweh, as the wife of Yahweh, to uphold the law. How many times have Pastor told us we have to be teachers? Don't be afraid to participate in the classes, whatever classes you can get involved with. Speech classes, workshop classes, whatever Yahweh offers you, grab those tools, because it is our job to be teachers forever. And we cannot turn away from it, as you're going to see, because this is what Satan did. It was her job to do so, to be a teacher of righteousness, and she turned away from it. It was her job, along with her household, to actually uphold the laws, and she didn't do it. You see, Yahweh never promised her this authority we read in Genesis 1:26. This was a promise to man. He said, I will make man in my image. And he will have rulership. Now, Yeshua was the first to be born into this great family of Yahweh. And think about it. We had to be called. We had to be given enough understanding to answer that calling. We had to be guided by the priests, and we have to submit and be humble to that instruction. Because what Yahweh is looking for out of us is perfection. Yeshua was the first to be born of Yahweh and to actually have this rulership, to have this power. Notice in Hebrews 1 verse 3, it says, when he had purged sins, and Pastor says, when he had gotten rid of sins, then it says he sat down on the right hand of Yahweh on high. So what is it going to take for us now to be able to, as we said in the workshops, I believe it was yesterday, to be able to stand at Yeshua's side and go forward and do this work? We're going to have to purge ourselves of sin. We're going to have to get rid of it all. It's more than just a thought. It actually takes that effort to push it out. And we may get to some more of that later. We'll see. But after he had purged sins, he sat down on the right hand of Yahweh on high. So this is what Yahweh is waiting for in us. Becoming so much better than the Malachim. Now remember, Yahweh foretold about Yeshua. Now here Yahweh is foretelling about us as well. Becoming so much better than the Malachim. Yes, this is what Yahweh predicted for all of you, Pastor says. Though we were made lower than the Malachim, we will be higher or better than the Malachim. These positions will be for those who will yield to the pattern that Yahweh has set. It's such a heavy sentence and a very important thing to keep stapled in our hearts and minds, that we must at all time yield to the pattern that comes from the mountain, from Abel. Not a pattern of anything else. Not a pattern of anything we've studied for 40 years in our lives before coming to Yahweh's house. Not a pattern of wearing some holy garment we made when we were part of some foolish religion. These positions will be for those who yield themselves, not buck up to the pattern, not resist the pattern that Yahweh has set, but they yield to the point where it would be impossible to ever sin. You see, Yahweh is bringing us through this training, calling, testing, and we fall, don't we? Yes, we fall. Then we get right back up. We confess. And then we practice. And we practice. And we're continually trying to purge. Because the more that we practice, the more that we're going to become like Yeshua, who is like Yahweh, which is perfect. None of us became perfect at writing or drawing or riding a bicycle without a lot of practice. I can't draw either. But this is how we're going to get to the point where we won't ever choose to sin. Yes, it is in your ability to choose that you will never sin. Don't trust your own mind going, well, I'm not the man above all men like Yeshua. I can't get to that point, Kohan. You don't understand. I was raised this way or that way. No, trust what Yahweh says. He says, these are the ones who will guide the rest to keep them from sinning also. So this isn't about me. This isn't just about us. We have a job to do. To keep them from sinning also, becoming so much better than the Malachim that he has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. In Deuteronomy 27:26, Pastor is referencing here, he says the reason that Lucifer was not qualified is given here. He's talking about Deuteronomy 27:26. The reason that Yeshua qualified, as we read in Hebrews and Philippians, is because he upheld the laws. And that's the reason that Lucifer disqualified. And this is the reason that she has managed to bring these curses on the world. You see, if we don't yield to the pattern, we're doing the exact same thing that Lucifer, that Satan, has done. And we would bring that hell right into Yahweh's house, into Yahweh's kingdom. He's not going to allow that in his eternal ruling kingdom. We have time now to practice, get it out, apologize, confess, overcome. But it won't be allowed to be a part of his eternal ruling kingdom. In verse 18, he says, Yahweh has also preordained others for this same thing. He preordained your calling before the world was made. He preordained Yeshua to be a man who would live totally without sin from the time he was born. How beautiful. How honorable it is that he's our high priest. My earliest memories of my life are wrapped in sin. I can't even think of a childhood without sin. But this man never chose to sin. And we can get to that same point. He preordained Yeshua to be a man who would live totally without sin from the time he was born. His mother and father were both fully trained in the laws. You see what you're going to be teaching the nations as well? Why it's so important for the family now to light a lamp and teach the children. Because this is what Yeshua, what occurred to Yeshua. His mother and father were both fully trained in the laws, just like we are. And we're getting more and more, here a little and there a little, every Sabbath. And the laws were trained into Yeshua. You notice it doesn't say they were beat into Yeshua. It doesn't say they were forced. They were trained. They were taught with love, with care and concern. The parents found a way to attach him to the law. These laws were trained into Yeshua, so he would be trained to point out a bird and never alter from it. And he's talking about a story about a bird dog. And I don't know how to imitate a bird dog. I guess when he sees a bird, he points and he doesn't move. He doesn't change. And we have to be that way with identifying even sin coming anywhere in our direction. No, that's not going to be the behavior I'm going to partake in. No. Turn that. No. I don't. Not even that commercial. Let's get that book out of this house. That comes by training, not just a casual conversation here or there. It takes that consistency. Now, Pastor says here that we saw that Yeshua was the first to qualify, and he qualified so that he could help the rest of us. He is now sitting at the right hand of Yahweh with just enough power to help the rest of us at this time. In Philippians 2:6, notice, who being in the form of Yahweh, did not think it was something to be seized upon, to be equal with Yahweh. And Pastor says, in other words, Yeshua never stepped out of line. If you had this paper in your hand, I'd ask you to underline it, bolden it even more. He never stepped out of line. He never pushed back against his supervisor. He never pushed back against the priest. He never stepped out of line like Satan did. Yeshua never lusted after something that didn't belong to him. Now remember, we have to be the same way. Totally purged of this. We all came to Yahweh's house with these practices. But he did not lust after something that didn't belong to him like Lucifer did. He never lusted after a position that was not his, that was not given to him through Scripture. He knew exactly what was given to him, and he never lusted after anything else. In fact, he fought all of his life to achieve the leadership that was promised to him. And you know, we're fighting all of our lives. Because your life didn't begin till you got here. It didn't begin till you came to the house of Yahweh. This is the only place that's ever taught you life. Everything else before the house of Yahweh was death. And this is what each of us should be doing. Praise Yahweh for his support. This is what each of us should be doing. Yahweh knows the leadership that we were created for. This is if we'll stand in line. Listen to this parallel Pastor gives us. He says a cow was created to give milk. A cow was not created to rule over lions or bears. If she stepped out of line and started trying to teach bears and lions how to live, she would get eaten. He says, right? And that's what he says, that's what a cow would bring herself to. And that's exactly what Satan did. Continuing in Revelations now. This is from Revelations 5, verse 12. Saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb. Our Passover Lamb, Pastor says, Yeshua himself, who was slain to receive power. Do you consider yourself slain to receive power? Do you consider that you've been tried and tested and tried? Been called every manner of evil? You see, you're walking this walk that Yeshua walked. Yahweh willing, you can hear me. Who was slain to receive power And this is the same word that it's talking about, Pastor says. This same power is delegated now, or will be given to the Lamb at your presence, because you're going to be married with him. You're going to be ready to stand at his side, is what he's telling us. We're going to be married to our high priest. You will all receive power together. Right now, he is our high priest. That is his limit right now. Before it's over, he will be King of Kings, rulers of rulers, or leaders of leaders. The house of Yahweh as his wife, in unity, will have the same power that he has. You can see why the requirement for us is so heavy. It's not some joke. We're going to have that same authority that our head has. Continuing, it says, here's some more that Yeshua gets. This is what we're going to get. And riches and wisdom. Pastor says, see, it all comes together with the use of the subconscious mind. And strength, and honor, and glory, and blessings. All of these that are covered in Revelation show that it is all given to Yeshua. Now the word power, Pastor talks about here, he says the exact same word is used in Revelations 2:26. Notice now who gets this power. And in Revelation 2:26, he says, and he who overcomes. He who overcomes. He who practices, and if he falls, gets back up and practices and falls until he overcomes. Pastor says, got that? He who overcomes and keeps my works until the end. To him I will give power. And this is the same word used there in Yada 1:26, talking about Yahweh. And Revelations 5 talks about Yeshua. Revelation 2 talks about the thing, the same power, which is word 1849, which is the exact same power that Yahweh has that will be given to each of you. That's very tremendous to think that that kind of authority, that it was in Yahweh's plan from the beginning to give us that kind of authority. If you have your book of Yahweh with you, we're going to go to 1 Yachanan chapter 2, verses 1 through 6. I'm going to read this to you. It says, my little children, I write these things to you that you may not sin. And if anyone sins, we have an advocate with the Father, Yeshua Messiah, the righteous. And he is the sacrifice of atonement for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the world. How heavy was it when Pastor talked about Yeshua being sacrificed for us, for sinners? Who am I that Yeshua 2,000 years ago would die willingly? A piece of trash. But he did this now for the sins of the whole world. And now by this we know that we know him, if we keep his laws. And he who says, I know him, but does not keep his law is a what? A liar. And the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps his law, In him truly is the love of Yahweh perfected. You see, it's written everywhere. Practice Yahweh's laws and you're going to bring it to perfection. Put the full effort in, not a half effort, not 3/4 effort. And by this we know that we are in him. And he who says that he abides in Yeshua. Now notice this. He who says, and we'll close with it, he who says that he abides in him, referencing to Yeshua, is himself also obligated to walk exactly as he walked. That is our obligation. Not to allow sin just to confess it on the Sabbath, but to actually purge it out from us. To truly learn to be holy and love the laws of Yahweh, so that we can actually stand at Yeshua's side. Being that we become like Yeshua, we'll be at a point where we never choose to sin again. Sons of Israel, Abel, if you'll please stand. I'd like to turn the podium over to the great Kohan Shmuel Hawkins. There you go.
Shalom. You may be seated. I'd like to read a part that's on this sheet to help us focus on what the lesson is about. It says there's many wonderful prophecies still to come. We can be a part of it. We can witness every event that will take place. And this is what I want us to hear. This is our history. Those who come through the nuclear age, those who become sons and daughters of Yahweh. Brothers, we're living through this time. This is our history. Those that come through the nuclear age, those that are alive and coming through the peak of sin. You know, Yeshua is our perfect example. And if we can be like him, we'll be perfect as well. We talked about this in workshop. We need to hate sin so that we can love righteousness. If we don't do that, Pastor says we're going to fail. And we're going to have power. We're going to have our power taken away from us. Power that is already assigned to each one of us. You know, I don't think I've thought about that. This is from the second book of Yisrayl, and I have to admit, I think I forgot all about Pastor saying, we have power already assigned to us. It's ours to lose. It's ours to give up. That's awesome. When Yeshua came, he came preaching the kingdom of Yahweh. The kingdom of Yahweh is a ruling kingdom. And that kingdom, that ruling kingdom, is made up of laws that we must abide by in order to get into this kingdom. He's testing us. He's trying us on one thing. And that's the reason he gave us his laws. He gave us these laws to guide us to perfect righteousness and to test and prove us to see whether we would do those laws or not. Our practicing these laws sometimes seems to be a test. But they're there so that we can prove to ourselves that we hate sin and love righteousness. Before we can prove anything to Yahweh, we need to prove it to ourselves. I can go a whole day and not sin. I can go a whole hour, a whole minute and not sin. I can go a whole week and not sin. We need to prove that to ourselves. And as we prove it to ourselves, Yahweh sees the effort. He sees the results. We don't have to prove anything to Yahweh. If we just prove to ourselves that we can do this and do it, Yahweh will automatically see it. And we get to keep our power. Or powers. And I don't think it's going to be like the world sees powers. Think about the power that microorganisms have. They make a heart. They make a liver. And a kidney and a brain. That's far greater power than seeing through a cinder block wall. I mean, that's all the world can come up with. Oh, superpowers. Can lift a train. Well, what are you going to do with it when you lift it? Put it back down? Power over life and death. Man. Power over life and death. It'll blow your mind when you stop and think about the things that Yahweh says He wants us to be able to do and take care of and handle. Yahweh's establishing this kingdom through Yisrayl Hawkins. Isn't He the one who established the house of Yahweh and the chief of the nations? We're latecomers, all of us. Even if you were here a week after Pastor did what he did, we're still latecomers. He's establishing this kingdom, and He's establishing a family through love. Real love. Not fake love, real love. He's giving us a pattern of how to establish our own family through love and instruction and teaching and lamp lighting each other, and all of those things are to build a family. That's what we're learning. Sons and daughters, we're going to be in the family of Yahweh. And those are the ones He promised in Genesis 1:26 that would have rulership, would have authority over life and death. That's what we're practicing. That's what we're practicing to be able to handle, to be able to deal with. In order to love righteousness, we must hate sin. Not the sinner. They're doing what they were taught to do. But in order to love righteousness, we have to hate sin. To practice that, to comprehend, to grasp and understand that, think of the one sin. I'll even make it easy. Think of the one sin in the world that you hate. And then read Yahweh's laws and see if you hate every one of the 612 other laws as much as you hate that one sin. Prove it to yourselves. Prove it to ourselves. Yahweh's establishing this kingdom, inviting us in as His sons and daughters, as His family. But we can't stay if we don't hate sin. There was nowhere in Yeshua's writings that He condoned sin. When He forgave someone, He said, now go and sin no more. Go and sin no more. We made a vow when before we were baptized that we would no longer willfully sin. I really don't think I knew what that meant when I signed that vow. But I have no excuse today. None. I mean, I knew what the words meant, but I didn't really know what it meant to do that. I didn't know how much work it took to do that. But if we block that out, if we don't think about those things from the beginning, we'll forget them. It's easy to forget. It's easy to make something not important that really is important. I think that's called deception. We can deceive ourselves. You know, Yeshua in Matthew 24 speaks about it's going to be the time of the greatest tribulation, the greatest trouble. And sometimes I realize it's not just that trouble that's out in the world, it's the trouble that's in between my ears. Trouble grasping what's expected of me and performing what's expected of me, doing what's expected of me. We're being offered the offices of sons of Yahweh. No one else is. Just us. That's pretty special. Isn't it? But sometimes I think I catch myself taking that for granted. I'm here. I'm at the feast. I do this or that. But there's more to it. There's more to that love, that selflessness, to serve others. The greatest tribulation of all times. And Yahweh's not going to stop it until there's no hope left for life. We're training right now. I think one of the priests, if I remember right, said it's like training to climb Mount Everest. That's not easy. It's hard. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of practice, a lot of equipment. We need to take care of all of that we have to be able to accomplish this mountainous task. That we're on the mountain. If we were standing off to the side, looking up that mountain, we could see a whole line of us going up the mountain. And then there's all those other people that aren't even trying. They're not, I don't want to use the word trying. They're not even called. And they're so busy chasing after the Joneses. Better car, better house, bigger house, fancier car, more expensive this, more expensive that. What are they going to think when the nuclear bombs hit and the sky is completely filled with smoke? They have no hope. They choose to not think about those things because they have no hope. But we have hope. We have a place of protection. We have 613 laws that will protect us from that. We have each other to protect us from all of that evil and wickedness. All of that death and destruction. We have one another to help us through that. Those nations are going to mourn, especially when those that do survive, when they see Yeshua. They deceive themselves into thinking it's okay to sin now and pray later. They're going to know that that's not the Lord. That's Yeshua. How can you boldly stand before Yeshua and say, oh, look at my wonderful works, when you didn't even know who he was? How can we boldly stand before Yeshua if our works don't measure up? You know, the world thinks there's already a kingdom established. You die and you go to heaven. You know, I figured out why people have big funerals. So that everybody there can be seen by the dead guy, so he doesn't come back and haunt them that night. Because that's as deep as they can go. You don't know any better. They can't even realize when you're dead, and you don't even know you're dead because you're dead. They can't realize, they can't understand that. Right now, there's two people in that heavenly kingdom. There's Yeshua and the creator of it all, Father Yahweh. And they have thrones. They're not floating around like some green cloud somewhere. They can sit because they got a seat. Isn't it awesome the way Yahweh wrote or inspired to have written Genesis 1:26? Then Yahweh said, I will make man in my image. But I get to be maybe a Phillips screwdriver in his toolbox to get to help with that. And so do all of you. We're all those tools that get to be used by Yahweh to make ourselves and through our example to help others be made in the likeness or in the image of Yahweh, so that we can help one another have that rulership, that authority, that power of life or death. You know, Daniel talked about a kingdom being gathered together, and we can see that with the G7, who's now the G20, with the quartet, with all of the other stuff they have. Those kings are being drawn together for that war. There is no love out there. There's not even any like out there. Nobody likes each other. You know, Daniel saw those visions of what was coming, because he got to see on the sea of glass pastor teaching in this time period. He saw the news, so he got to see what a fighter plane and a helicopter looked like. He got to see what a battleship and an aircraft carrier looked like. He didn't know what they really were, I don't think. But he knew they brought death, because pastor said it. He knew about so many things because pastor taught it to us, and he got to listen and see a part of what pastor was teaching us. And in those days that he saw what pastor was teaching is the same days now that we're being gathered together, established in the house of Yahweh in exactly the right time, in exactly the right place. Being created in that image and in that likeness that Yahweh said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make man this way. And all we have to do is agree and do it. Right now, Yahweh's not calling the subjects of his kingdom into the kingdom. He's calling sons and daughters, that priesthood. That's what we're training for. Not just to be subjects in the kingdom, but to be that priesthood. That's big. That's bigger than big. That's amazing. Nobody in the world offered me anything close to this. Never. Because they didn't have it to offer. In the days of these kings, Yahweh, we wouldn't know what these powers are unless we had the spirit of prophecy, which is shown in Revelation. That's the reason Yahweh revealed this in Revelation to us, to let us know what He's talking about. Because in the days of these kings, we're going to be given power. Power as a kingdom. Right now, the one power that I know we all have is the power over sin. We do not have to choose to sin. We have the power over sin because we know what sin is. Outside that gate, they really don't know what sin is. Some people think dancing is sin. And some it's the music, and some it's the this, and some it's the that. But we know what sin is. We have the power over sin. So that means that the priesthood has the power over sin. Isn't that the power over life and death? We can practice that right now. And we should be practicing that right now. Every time we cut ourselves slack and allow ourselves to sin, oh, it's okay. I got confessions on Sabbath. I can go and get that off. Is that really how it's supposed to work, or is that how the world does it? We're being judged for our effort. How much effort do we put into not saying a hinder word? And I just picked that one. First thing came into my mind. Effort. Effort. How much effort do we put into our jobs here at the house? Another day I got to get up and cut grass. Another day I got to get up and clean toilets. Is that really what our job is? You know, some of the most important jobs for life: cleaning the toilets, cleaning the showers, taking out the garbage. I mean, some pretty bad bugs can get in there if we don't take care of that. And if we don't take care of our jobs with all our effort and all of our might, we're really not showing that we love our brother or our neighbor. We're showing how much we hate them. Come on, that's just cleaning a toilet. I'll just go on to the next one. But did we really clean it? Remember, that's the example Pastor gave us. Before he even knew about the house of Yahweh, before he established it. Remember, he said he was cleaning around in the kitchen floor and the toilets with a toothbrush, and he thought that was the best job anybody ever gave him. He may not have been able to tell us at that time why it was so important. He just knew it was important. And look at the love he showed when he got promoted. What was that job he got promoted to do? Oh, park cars. Why do we think we got to have, I'm the leader of, I don't know, you fill in the blank. That doesn't make us a big man. The effort we put into whatever job it is that we have assigned to us and we have agreed to do, we need to hang on to it like that bulldog. Because Yahweh assigned us to that duty, that responsibility, that job for a reason. Because He knows us. He knew we could do that job to protect one another. Oh, clean the toilet. You know, that was my first job here, cleaning toilets. Con Aaron couldn't wait to find that new guy. Then I got a promotion. I got to come clean the sanctuary. It's the lowest jobs. Those jobs are the more important jobs. Cleaning the kitchen. Those jobs that the world has taught us are menial, mean nothing, are some of the most important jobs there are to bring life. Cut the grass. Oh, how can that be a big thing? Well, don't snakes hide in tall grass? And all kinds of other varmints? It's very rare that I see a hawk swoop down in a clean-cut yard to get a bite to eat. It's always tall grass. And he's hovering there, and you can see him. And he goes down and gets a rat or whatever it is. It's the unkept parts, places. Yahweh doesn't want unkept. Notice how beautiful this whole area is. You got some rain. You worked hard. All of you. Those powers that Yahweh's promised us, already assigned to us, they're ours to lose. Oh, I don't want to clean the toilets anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I can't get along with this supervisor. I want a new supervisor. Who the hell are you to make that decision? You agreed. You made a vow to willfully never sin again. Oh, Yahweh, you just didn't know what you were doing when you made him supervisor. I could do so much better. I'll take a couple steps back if I'm standing next to you and you start talking like that. And you better step 2 steps away from me if I start talking like that. Yahweh knows what he's doing. He didn't select any one of us. He never made a mistake in choosing us to be here. He knew exactly what he was doing. He chose us when he chose Yeshua. And he gave Yeshua his job. And he chose pastor and he gave him his job. And he chose each one of us. And has a job for us to do. Why would we complain about that? What if Yeshua complained? I mean, he was our perfect example. Did he complain about the job and what he had to do? No. We heard all about that at Yeshua's memorial. Take our jobs as serious as Yeshua took his job and as pastor takes his. And Moshe took his. That's how important each one of our jobs are. And we're almost there. I don't hear about half of the complaining that we used to hear. We've all gotten better. So this is just to help encourage. Don't deceive ourselves. Don't allow us to do that to ourselves. Help one another.